It's interesting. So this is a little unique how it's happening. There's a public hearing that's for the project that's coming down the pike. So this is like architecture.
No, I think it's red.
Oh yeah, that's right. That goes.
I haven't used it myself.
All right, it is 4 o'clock, so we will call the March 13th Architecture Review Board to order. Steve, if you could call the roll, please.
Sounds good. All right, yeah. Dave Aldig.
Here.
Joe Clark.
Here.
Richard Lindy.
Here.
Pam Langen.
Here.
I'm trying to think. I didn't hear from Zach. I thought Bob mentioned he was going to be here.
Yeah, we were expecting Bob.
But
Was Zach in Germany?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. But anyways, we get a quorum.
Great. We have a quorum, so we'll proceed. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And any potential conflicts of interest for our board members today? Hearing none, move to item number 4, the approval of the minutes from way back December 12th.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. Brings us to item number 5, the proposed construction of the Berkshire Sheboygan Riverfront Apartments and Townhomes at 10th and Indiana. If that design team can come to the podium, make some introductions, and then give us a brief rundown on what you're proposing, please.
Excellent. Thanks. My name is Sig Stroutmanis. I'm with General Capital, and we're the developers of this project, together with a partner, Development Group. And as a little bit of introduction, the design of this site is really based on the constraints of the site, I would say. When we first started looking at this property a while back, it looked like a nice blank slate. But if you'll notice it, there's power lines running across it. There's some right-of-way that bisects it. And so that really, and maybe, you can see the site that we have some high-tension wires, which are basically the ATC wires that can't go anywhere. But then there are also some more locally serving wires that go diagonally, kind of as an extension of, I think it's commerce as it goes through the site. And those wires we intend to relocate. And then also there's some infrastructure, there's some sanitary sewer and water that runs in that former right-of-way area that also are basically the constraints, you can see it right there, of the site. There's one building that will be demolished, that small little commercial building that's over on 10th. And otherwise, if you look at this as a diagram, you basically see that Commerce Street that runs diagonally through it, it really splits the site into two, kind of a northern piece that's on the river, and then the southern piece that is that area. Thanks, Steve, I appreciate you pointing at all this stuff. And then if you flip to the site plan, then I can just talk about how, how we responded to that site. So we ended up keeping the building off of the piece that's closest to the river. We had played with a couple of different schemes to maybe put a building on the river or split it in two, things like that. But after talking through it with the city, we decided that together it made sense to put an open space, a public open space on the riverside that'd be kind of the terminus or the end of that river walk. And we call it the river walk to nowhere right now, or the walkway to nowhere, which I think over the long term, the city is going to look at how to improve all that and make more of a true park up on the riverside. And then on our side, I'll say, of the line, which is the Commerce Street piece, we have two basically development pieces. One is north of that ATC line, and that is going to be an 83-unit independent senior apartment building that's going to have a ground floor of parking. The site is a little mucky, so it's a little, it's difficult to go underground with the parking, so we actually have a podium. They call it a podium style, where the parking is above ground, and then above that is stick frame construction. And then on the Indiana side, we have 18 townhome units, which are 2 stories, and basically will have 2 faces, 2 very different kind of characters to it. One will be on the Indiana side, and then one will be on, and I'll let our architect kind of go through the details of this, but just to explain the idea here, one is on the parking lot side, and these will be 3-bedroom individual entry townhomes. And on the Indiana side, one of the interesting features of this is that it'll have live-work units. So it'll basically be a ground floor studio space or an office space that a resident could use. We have residents have done things like they may have an accounting practice, they may have a hair salon, or some kind of a home type of occupation use. And the architecture, again, without jumping a little ahead here, as you can see that there's storefront glass and kind of a very on Indiana, we felt it was appropriate, more kind of a commercial vibe to the townhomes on the street side. And then and you can see here too that there are these 2-story units on the second floor, these nice balconies that will overlook the street. So those are the 2 parts of our project. And before I turn it over to Mark, we're behind you. Just a little bit about us. We are Fox Point based. I live in Cedarburg. We have an independent senior brand called the Berkshire, and that's why this is called the Berkshire Riverfront. And we have done probably a dozen or more of these communities. And the idea is that they're for active independent seniors. There's not an assisted component or any services. So we'll target 55 and older. So a lot of our residents end up, if they're on the younger side, they'll still be working potentially. And then our residents tend to be super active. We have a lot of amenity spaces, club rooms, things like that, a fitness center. And in this case, on the top floor, we have a great little club room that has river views and an outdoor balcony space. And so these Berkshire communities tend to really be active places, very low turnover. Our residents, once they come into our communities, very rarely do they end up moving back out. So we have really low turnover, and they're really they've just been a great I don't want to call it a product line, but basically they've just been a great way of, for our portfolio to be, to have these independent senior buildings in them. So that's what we're thinking of. And then these townhomes are not age restricted. They're basically for any age, but then the senior piece will be restricted to 55 and older. So I can get into any more detail on that if it's relevant, but I wanted to hand it over to Mark Linzer, who's with Engberg Anderson, and he can talk about the design of the project.
Great. Thanks, Sig.
Hello there. I guess we'll start with the apartment building. We have that one up first. So that one's set at the kind of the back side of the site, although it faces on 3 streets here. So, but we set that one the back side of the site because of the 5-story height to it. Will better blend in with the existing manufacturing that was rehabbed into housing as well, kind of kitty corner from that. In keeping with that theme, we'll use a fair amount of masonry on this building. The whole base of the building will have a darker masonry, 2 different types of darker masonry. We'll have a random pattern of those bricks in that particular area. And then the darker tans that you see in the vertical pieces, that would be a brick. And then the upper banding on the top and the lighter banding in the middle, that would be smooth panel siding, fiber cement siding for the whole building. This is looking back across that green from the river. So you'll see the Illinois, I think it is, on the right there. So that's the right side. That'll be facing Illinois. And then the face that you see looking at you here, that's the one facing the river. And then down in the lower left corner, you can see a little bit of storefront. There is a small little retail building there, or retail space there at that parking level, separated from the parking level, facing off to the south of the site there. I think that pretty well covers the apartment building. And then for the townhouse building, That one will front, like Sig said, on Indiana and kind of wrap the corner there on 10th Street. And we wanted to keep this with the same feel and scale as the street itself and the buildings that are along the street there as well. So most of what you see right across the street, right next to us to the east there, and then even kind of across the street and down on a block on either side, is pretty much two-story buildings, mostly sided buildings, very little masonry, and it's all in the scale of kind of retail or some sort of business, small business on the lower level with apartment buildings or apartment units, housing units above. So that was the idea, to keep the scale of that going along the street as well, being the entry into kind of the downtown area. If you want to go back to one of those elevations, Sid kind of walked you through, but what we'll have here is horizontal siding that will actually have more of a stained, still be fiber cement siding, but it'll have more of a stained cedar look to it. I have a couple of samples I can show everybody later if they want to see. But the intent there is so that darker area that you see there is the horizontal siding that will look more like a stained cedar, a darker stained cedar. And then that middle section, to create the verticality there, it's a lighter board and batten siding. That would be a smooth fiber cement siding there. And then the rhythm that we wanted to build was to have kind of the two-story volume and then more of a one-story volume. That's why we have the deck set back. And that would be the entry, the business style entry for the live-work unit. And then that just kind of builds itself down the street to blend in with the rest of the street across the street and the buildings next to it. On the back side, where that little entry is, we would have a little bit more of a closed off. I don't know if we have a rendering for that. Don't remember if we bought that. Wouldn't be quite as many windows, yeah, there with the red doors. Wouldn't be quite as many windows on the side facing the apartment building, because that one, even though the design of the unit is the same, it wouldn't necessarily be marketed as a live-work unit. And then the side facing 10th is the lower left corner there. We do have, we put a little bit of interest in there. We'll have some signage right on the corner because that'll be the most prominent one driving in off of Indiana. And then we do have that in the back there, that little appendage that you see, that's where we have our sprinkler building, our sprinkler connections, and some of the electrical connections as well. Any questions?
I will
Could we
start
see
off.
the sample, please?
The samples, sure.
These are the brick samples for the apartment building. These two will be for base. One has more of a flash to it, one is more of a matte finish. So that'll give us that kind of that two-tone look. When you see it in the sun, it's a little hard to see here, but when you see it in the sun, this one actually mirrors a little bit.
In the sun.
Yeah, right. So, and then this is the brick that will go above it, so
Yes.
give us sort of a pretty warm tone.
Okay, thank you.
So then, at the apartment building, we'll have, easy way to do this, and do it here. We have the timber park, which is, that one there. So, the timber park, that's the horizontal siding at the top, and then the panel siding in the middle is the white granite.
I thought I had.
See that one. Timber bark and white granite. It's not
Oh, I'm
bark.
sorry, the white granite's in the other one. Grab that. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can't make it easy to put
Yeah,
on the
right,
same one.
yeah, there's two different kinds, so. The white granite
That's the way.
Oh, is that in this,
textured.
Yeah, yep. So that'll go up
That's where the
against.
townhomes.
this one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Except the gray, and very warm.
Very nice.
For it. Yeah. And then the townhomes, that one's here. That's the townhomes, we have the coastal gray, which is the darker one, which is right up there. Yep, and then we'll have the sandcastle and the cobblestone. The sandcastle, like I think, or the cobblestone is here. This is the cobblestone. And the other sandcastle.
Okay.
So again, it's a very warm palette. Tans and warm gray.
That's what we need in Sheboygan, a little warm. Thank you.
You good, Dave?
So, Mark, I think the first time I saw the drawings, it was just a black and white set. And my first reaction was that it was a fairly big building and maybe it was too simplistic. But I must say, as I looked at it in more detail, I commend you for the amount of complexity and order you've got built into the system. I think you've pulled out just about every architecture trick and used it in there, but done it nicely.
We like to go for the subtlety part of it, but, have enough interest in there that when people really start to look at it, then they start to pick up on all the little details.
And I think you've done that nicely. It's a
Thank you.
sophisticated building.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it. One question in the renderings, it looked as if there's a penthouse visible up on top. Is that an elevator penthouse or is that mechanical?
That would be the elevator penthouse.
Okay.
There will be an emergency generator up there, but it'll be set back so that basically from down below, you're really not going to see it. It'll be set in the middle of the roof, and from the street level, you really won't be able to see it up there.
And so the finished material for that elevator penthouse?
The finished material will probably, the penthouse itself will probably only come up about this tall. So that'll really just be roofing membrane over it. The emergency generator itself will have to have a little bit of a housing around it.
Pull up the, I think it's the courtyard view.
It may have, was it showing up from there? Oh, right there.
When you see
Okay.
a housing around it, is it for acoustics, for the generator noise, or what is that for?
No, that would just be for aesthetics.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the image is on the screen in the courtyard side, seeing that elevator penthouse then up on the top.
That one up there, yeah. So that would really just be a roofing membrane over it. We hadn't planned on putting any other particular finishes up on it. It seems a little tall right now, but maybe that's where it is.
Okay.
I mean, if it gets up more than, 2 feet, then we could probably look at putting one of the sidings on it instead. Honestly, I don't think it goes up that tall, but I could be wrong on that.
Artistic license.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the site plan, I didn't notice any dumpster enclosures or,
The dumpster for the apartments will be inside and will be rolled out when it's needed. For the townhomes, it's right there where the arrow is. There is an enclosure there. I think we have that as masonry. Do we have that as masonry, or do we? Yes, I thought we had that as a masonry
perfect.
surround, so.
And then any other mechanicals on those townhomes that are visible?
There will be small condensers up there for the AC units. Those again will be set in the middle, right in the middle of the roof. So from the ground, you won't see them. I mean, those things sit, maybe 3 feet off the surface, so.
And then utility connections, are those going to be coming into the front of each unit?
No, they'll be coming in from the side. On the townhomes, they'll come in from the east side next to the existing building. So the meters will be on that side of the building, but they'll be pretty much hidden from view.
Yeah.
And then for the main apartment building, they will be facing Illinois, and there'll be the gas meter. There'll be one gas meter, on the northwest corner, and then the electric meters will be on the northeast corner.
We'll look at where to put them. They're on
Yeah.
very yellow.
Yeah.
If we go back to the other long elevation, I think that's where. Go back to the other sheet.
Oh,
That one. Yeah, that one. No, the next one down. That one. So they'll be on that bottom elevation. Nope, the top elevation will be on the far left and far right sides, yeah.
Other questions or comments from the board?
I can't see, on this rendering, the one that's, I think it was on 10th Street, it's the one that has the sign on it, the Berkshire sign. I'm sorry, I can't read, even with my cheaters, what these little, they look like little ledges.
The dark pieces?
Yeah,
Those would just be a change in the siding color to create
Okay.
a little bit of interest in there. They're not projected at all.
okay,
They're basically the same lap siding, but in a different color,
right, yeah, that's what I
in
was
the
looking at
darker
right
color,
there.
correct.
Okay. So there are no windows on that side?
Not
On that-
on that face,
Okay.
correct, correct. Just, the blue pieces are the windows, yes, but yeah.
Oh, those are,
Yeah,
okay.
those are windows, yes, those are
Okay.
windows.
Thank you.
Good. It looks as if we have neighborhood interest in the project. Just to clarify that any concerns with the massing or height or things like that are Plan Commission issues. Architecture Review Board just deals with the exterior aesthetic of the building. But as interested citizens who've taken the time to show up for the meeting, if you have comments you'd like to share concerning the exteriors, we'd certainly be interested to hear from you guys.
The other thing I can mention is, so as the chairperson just mentioned today, the Architectural Review Board is strictly looking at the architecture of the townhomes and the apartment buildings. This will also have to come to Plan Commission, which talks about more of the site improvements, traffic, things like that. So you will be receiving notice of that hearing. It's likely that it will be before the Plan Commission on I think it's Tuesday, April 10th. So you'd probably get a notice in the paper the Wednesday or Thursday prior to that Tuesday meeting. So that one will be a little bit more in terms of obviously they'll look at the architecture like we're looking tonight, but the Architectural Review Board is in charge of that aspect. The Plan Commission will then start taking a look at more of the specific site issues. And so you will definitely have the opportunity to participate and receive notice then as well.
Okay, I guess that's what we were wondering, why we received no notice of anything going on.
Yes. Typically what happens with architectural review is we don't typically provide notice to the neighbors because we're just taking a look at the exterior of the building. But before it comes for the use, the change of use, the apartment use and things like that, when that goes to Plan Commission, there's definitely that notice that's sent out to the adjoining neighbors.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other comments from the board? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion. I move that the project be approved as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Great. Thank you very much.
All right. See you guys in a couple weeks then.
Thank you.
And while everyone is feel free to leave, the one other agenda item for the board is general discussion on our review board process. Way back last year, when we last met, we were starting to talk about process and what opportunities there might be to improve our system, whether that would be some sort of additional preliminary reviews or design charrettes or clinics to have people come in and have local architects or board members available to give preliminary feedback. Have you guys had a chance to think of it? Anything that is striking you as something we ought to be considering? Dick?
Basically, what we have coming to the Architectural Review Board are two kinds of projects. One presented by professional architectural firms that are highly refined and developed. And then we have
Some more than others.
other items that come before us that are homemade, more or less, and they're done with integrity, but some of them lack some refinement and offer us some complications in how to go about helping them. So maybe a clinic for, when we get a local citizen doing his own design, maybe we could have a not-for-record meeting where we talk about how things work and how things together, and instead of being a formal meeting where we discuss everything and vote, we would have a free discussion helping them to resolve some of their issues and hear some of our concerns, and maybe even offer some support for them.
And in terms of support, how far are you thinking that would go, Dick, in terms of assisting with sketching out things? Is
This
it
would be
they
an
need to bring
informal
it to
meeting
us?
around a table, pads of paper and sketch pencils, where we could actually help them
Yeah,
rather than tell them to go get some help.
yeah,
So would the idea be if I'm, I tend to have a feel sometimes in terms of when we're going to get those types of projects. At that point in time, if you wanted, from a staff perspective, I could certainly let them know that that's something that could be offered, and maybe attempt to try to set up maybe just a very, almost like a pre-development meeting that I oftentimes do with a developer, and just maybe we would meet informally and just kind of talk with them and have those types of discussions. And sometimes that helps me out if it would be a board member or something, because oftentimes I indicate to them, hey, this is something that you're looking at, try to work with them, and maybe if someone else is there to mention it, it may carry a little bit of weight and it'll be helpful to me, so that when something is brought to you, hopefully it's better prepared for action. And so I can definitely, I have a good feel for when that's gonna happen.
yeah.
And so instead of just simply bringing them here and having that conversation, maybe there's an ability for me to try to do something prior to that meeting.
Exactly.
Might actually help expedite this meeting then too.
Sure. Probably the ones that you're kind of referring to a little bit might have been like the Mojo or something to that effect, and maybe bring him in with one of us and have that conversation at that time. Not just to spell out that, but as a recent example.
So this would, instead of being called a meeting of the Architectural Review Board, it would be like a critique.
Right? We'll just call it pre-development meeting.
Pre-development.
There you go.
And maybe they would be responsive to some help, some kind of help like that. Sometimes they would be. I worked with a few of our customers.
Sure.
Trying to get them to put things together.
Right.
Mostly they're very receptive.
Sure.
I think in terms of something the city could offer, if we can get board members or architects, and I would extend it beyond the board to other architects who would be interested in the area,
Yeah.
to be part of that, I think that would be great.
Retired guys.
I think the biggest concern that I perceive Steve faces is those projects that don't have architecture review. They're not flagged until they come in for a permit. They don't realize they need things, so they're coming in here, they're already behind schedule. They don't want to be told to change anything.
They've already started construction.
They bought
yeah.
materials.
Everything's bought,
Yeah.
Just don't tell me to change anything. Those clients still aren't going to be happy with the process.
Right.
But I think, to me, being able to reject a project because it's not architecturally thought through, and be able to offer that the city does have this service available at no charge, that yes, it may take a little more time, but we're not telling you have to go out and hire an expensive architect to get this done, maybe gives us a little more comfort in holding a project and having it carry over till the next meeting.
There's one other concern I have, Joel, and that is what kind of liability are we putting the city in if we offer design solutions that could go haywire?
You're offering advice though,
Yeah.
and you're not charging them for it.
Yeah, I think we'd need to make clear, and Steve, that may be something you
Yeah.
need to work out with
Yeah.
the city attorney.
Yeah,
That
that's a
this
good point.
is, these are suggestions, these are preliminary thoughts.
Yeah,
But since hopefully some of the board members will be part of this, there is an expectation that if the board members have pushed something, that at least those board members would support it. Again, since they wouldn't be getting paid, we wouldn't have a conflict of interest there. Even though they may have been pushing for a design approach, that wouldn't fall into the category of a conflict of interest and needing to recuse themselves from voting.
Is there any reason to contact the city attorney about this idea? See if there's any suggestions he or she might have?
yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll get an opportunity to talk to Attorney Adams a little bit, so I'll do that.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, thanks everyone for thinking about that. Okay, Bob, we'll bring you up to speed on what we've decided because we're
I can make the
hoping you'll be
motion to
involved in it too. But that wraps up our business for today. Would entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Now you have time to catch your breath.
We'll have a meeting.